What's good, everyone, and welcome back to Kaya's Commentary Season 4. And if you're new here, welcome to Kaya's Commentary Season 4. This is a podcast that offers commentary on pop culture topics, real world issues, anything in between, and maybe even some advice every now and then. Before we get down to it, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya R. Pennington, and Kaya's Commentary on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya's Commentary. Also, be sure to hit the follow/subscribe button and the bell so you get notified when new videos drop. With that, let's kick it into our first segment, What Drives Me, where I give my commentary on something that drives me. Um, so this is something that pops up on my feeds a lot, so it really could be an online conversation, online discourse, but it's online discourse that drives me. But much like the you don't owe anyone anything, where does kindness gets you, the notion of not everything is about you when someone goes silent, meaning that when somebody decides that, hey, life is life and right now and I need to like silence everything, you basically ghost people, you silence people. Um, and so when people say that, it's like, yeah, you're not selfish for doing that. Furthermore, the people who expect you to validate their emotions are the selfish ones because they're making it about you. It's not about you. They shouldn't have to tell you it's not about you. It's about them. And I feel like, no. This is something that drives the ever-living crap out of me. And honestly, I think I've talked about this a little bit before when I did my very first Kaya's commentary episode, low maintenance friendships versus high maintenance friendships. And I've also kind of talked about it with the notion of hyper individuality. And, being nice doesn't get you anywhere. I'm sorry, there's something in my eye. Being nice doesn't get you anywhere, and you don't owe anyone anything. Because it's not selfish. I want to make it clear it's not selfish that, life is getting to you, especially if you're like diagnosed with depression and all this stuff. It's not selfish to say, hey, I need a break from everything. But when you are in a committed relationship with someone, friendship, romantic, sexual, whatever, what have you, I'm so sorry. You do have a responsibility to occasionally validate their emotions and let them know, hey, it's not you. At the very least, to communicate and tell them, I'm sorry, I don't care how long y'all have known each other and they know that these are your patterns. Like I said, especially if you have like anxiety or depression, like, because my mind goes, like, is this the time where yourself, am I selfish? Because I want to know you didn't yourself. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think that it's self-centered or narcissistic or selfish to want to be validated in the thought that it's not you. Because one, we're all human, so we all get the, hey, life is life and I need to, even if we're not depressed with anxiety, depression, all that other stuff that might heighten these feelings. Um, hey, we all get that way. Life is crap. Well, if we all get that way and you understand, well, why do they need to communicate that? Because in this era of I'll ghost anything, I'll ghost anybody for any reason, yeah, sometimes it's nice to know that it's not you. Sometimes it's nice to know you didn't get ghosted for a slight that you didn't even know you committed. Because I'm honestly a 50-50 kind of gal with that like ghosting thing. Because on one hand, it's like, yeah, if they spit on you, well, why would you spit on me? This relationship is over. You definitely crossed the boundary that you shouldn't be spitting on me. But if y'all joking, laughing, kiki, ha 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 ha, and I'm gonna lightly shove you, you so crazy, and that's a trigger for you, and they don't know that, and you ghost them because they did that and didn't know. You tell people how to treat you. So in this era of I would rather ghost than communicate like an adult, like, yeah, it's not that hard. I will never stand, I will never get behind, like, not at least communicating on one level, like on a first level, first time. Like, I will never get with not communicating. It's not hard to validate someone else's emotions because I'm sorry, sometimes it's okay to do that. You want your emotions validated occasionally. Why don't you want to validate your friends or your significant others or whatever? And I definitely get it if it's like a, hey, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? Am I the problem? Am I the problem? Like I definitely get it if it's every 2 seconds, but even then, is that manipulation? Which it might be. Or is that a trauma response because somebody has done that to them and now they need extra reassurance? And I get that that can be like tiring, but like, so you still have a right to like say, hey, I can't be in this relationship with you because you have a right to say that. But communication and knowing which one you're dealing with. Like, I'm sorry, I will never get behind that not everything is about you, because I will give like an 80% grace period, a 10% or 20% grace period, because some people are narcissistic and self-centered when they do it. But 80% of the time, it's never coming from a self-centered, oh, you must be mad at me. But truly, did I do something wrong? Because we used to talk every couple of weeks and now we're just silent. Like, at least let me know you didn't yourself. Was I the bad energy that you needed to get away? Like, it's not hard to sometimes like validate your friends and others in your relationships, committed relationships, feelings. You want your emotions to be validated on occasion. What's so hard about validating theirs? Like, I get it. Well, the whole purpose is me like going silent because I can't deal with that. But like, sorry, it's not hard to send a hey yo, still good, didn't take myself out, still need time, check in with you later. Like, because ultimately, and I have talked about this, low maintenance friendships versus three maintenance friendships. I have a 3 strike rule. If you go silent on me, especially if I didn't know, I will hit you up the first time I'm like really hinting, starting to feel like something is wrong. Like, we've gone an extra long period without talking. If you don't say anything to that first message, I'll wait some months, like maybe a month or 2 or 3, and then I'll send you another one, and then I'll wait again, and then send you a third one. And if you don't respond to that third one, I'm assuming that you have ghosted me. And if it was the case that you just needed time, take all the time you need, because that's equally not selfish to say that you can't wait for somebody to decide that they are ready to come back into your life without having to communicate that at all. Like, they just popped out of your life. Even in low maintenance friendships. I'm so sorry. We weren't built for like this is gonna lead me into a whole other rant, but I have to keep it going. I'm trying to make this video short because I've recorded this twice already and I can't afford for it to be long. So I'm almost done. I'm gonna have to wrap this up. But I've always considered myself a introvert, even in the career that I've chosen. I guess more accurately, extroverted, introverted, because I can talk when I need to, but like it also will like drain me. There will get to periods where it's like, okay, whoo, I need a 10-minute break. Um, but all these, oh, I could stay in my room for 16 days and not respond to anybody or talk to anybody, have any human connections. I'm sorry, we weren't built to be that way. We were built for communications and connections. Like, so even in low maintenance friendships, I feel like people can only take so much silence before it's like, well, maybe I was the problem. Maybe I do need to go ahead and move on with my life. Like, communication is not hard. And y'all, it just goes along with this hyper individuality. That stance to me kind of goes along with the hyper individuality, and you don't owe anyone anything. And where does kindness get you? And y'all are going to be lonely. I'm so sorry. Y'all are going to be lonely and crying about why y'all are lonely is miserable, but y'all didn't put in the work to keep up the connections that y'all had. Communication is not hard. That's just something that drives me. I'm sorry, I will never get behind it. I'm not calling you selfish for needing to step back. We are all human and we all have that, but also you can't step back for a year with no communication and expect this other person to not feel like it's them, or to not feel like they've ghosted, or to feel like at the very least maybe I wasn't ghosted, but I do need to move on with my life. Like, it goes both ways. With that, that is a quick little what drives me. Now let's get into our second segment, What You're Reading, where I give my commentary on a book I've read. So today's book is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So I read this before it got like super hype on Book Talk, or at least really before I was on TikTok and Twitter like that. And so maybe around like 2020. And I'm gonna be real, I don't know how I made it through. I guess I was trying to read to see if it gets better. So I'm gonna come back to why I'm already starting out this review not at the greatest, but let's get into the summary. Said all that so I could pull up the summary because I forgot to pull up the summary. Of course I want to be like them. They're beautiful as blades forged in some divine fire. They will live forever. And Cardan is even more beautiful than the rest. I hate him more than all the others. I hate him so much that sometimes, when I look at him, I can hardly breathe. Jude was 7 years old when her parents were murdered, and she and her two sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous High Court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, despite her mortality. But many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Cardan, the youngest and wickedest of sons of the High King. To win a place at court, she must defy him and face the consequences. In doing so, she becomes embroiled in palace intrigues and deceptions, discovering her own capacity for bloodshed. But as civil war threatens to drown the courts of Fairy in violence, Jude will need to risk her life in a dangerous alliance to save her sister and Fairy itself. I want to point out a line because when you get into like that's Amazon summary, and when you get into the real deep summaries of this, they use bully and terrorize a lot to describe Cardan and Jude's relationship. Now, this was sold to me as enemies to lovers. That's not what this is. Like, and I will like absolve TikTok, book Twitter, book talk rather, and book Twitter and Bookstagram of selling it to me because Amazon sold it to me that way, or maybe BookBub. I can't remember. Somebody sold this to me as enemies to lovers, so that's why I was really just like trying to read to see if it gets better. But one of the lines I want to point out that I want to come back to. Most of all, I hate you because I think of you often. It's disgusting, and I can't stop. That's a line from Cardan, our love interest, and I'm gonna come back to why I think that that is a little problematic. So, it's a series, I guess, and there are four total. There's the main three, and then we have a small short story book about after the events of book three, and it's from Cardan's POV. And I did read it. I'm not reviewing it here, but there are four. So let's get into it. The Crow Prince. So Taran, Jude, and Vivian, or Vi as I'll refer to her, they're in the mortal world, and Vi's real dad, Maddox, he's a Fae general. He shows up looking for his wife who left him. He took Vi and left and went to the human world, then had two other kids, Taran and Jude. And so he takes her and the husband out, and then he brings all three sis to the Fae world. So years later, they were 7, they're 17 now, and Jude and Taran are twins, so they share a face. They're those kind of twins. And they're 17 and they're trying to navigate through Fae world. Vi is half Fae, and she's not completely looked down on like her human sisters. Maddox takes care of all three and insists they be treated fairly. They do have a stepmom and a little brother, Oak. And as the twins get older, there are two ways to stay in the land of Fairy. You show some skill, art, poetry, fighting, knighthood, which is Jude's choice, or you marry in, which is Taran's choice. So it's a kingdom, and there are several princes and one or two princesses, I believe. And while attending a ball, we see the princes and princesses. One in particular, and Jude's main tormentor, because when you get to the real summaries, tormentor and bully and terrorize are the words that they use. We see Cardan. So Jude finds him very pretty, but horrible. So at the party, a Fae accidentally gets in his way, in his posse's way, and so Cardan rips off the fairy's wings because they accidentally got into his way. They didn't see him coming and kind of like stepped out into his way or something like that, and he ripped off their wings. The sheer pleasure of it. There's an upcoming tournament, and this is where Jude plans to show her skill and declare herself wanting to be a knight, as she thinks this will make people respect her more. But Maddox says while she can compete, she cannot declare to be a knight. So Cardan, aware of Jude's intentions to be in the tournament and wanting her to drop out, he is like bullying her in different ways, trying to get her to drop out. And in one instance, he pushes her and Taran in a lake filled with piranha-like creatures, trying to bully her into dropping out. And it ends up being that Jude is too proud to ask for help, but he ends up saving Taran, but he makes Taran forsake Jude and then kiss him on the cheek, and then pulls her out of the water. And while that's happening, his other friends who really actually hate Jude and Taran, like they're dumping their book bags out and stuff. I can't remember. I think Jude ends up actually getting out of the water by herself after they've gone. But also, Vi wants to live in the mortal world, but Taran and Jude, despite all of this, have acclimated to the Fae world, and so they want to stay there. The tournament comes and Jude does well, which angers Carden, who bullies her some more, trying to get her to beg forgiveness, but she won't. Later, Locke, who is one of Carden's friends, comes to visit Jude and they begin a friendship, which I found weird because he was bullying you just like everyone else was, so I found that weird. Prince Dane, he's one of Carden's older brothers. He visits Jude, remarking on her swordsmanship. He was impressed. He knows that she wants to be an immortal fae. She wants to be just like them. And so he makes her one of his spies. In exchange, she gets to be invulnerable to all enchantments save his. So Fae can enchant the humans, and so he has given her protection, a sign or something on her person where his is the only Fae magic that can work on her. So more bullying comes from Jude's classmates. She's force-fed a fairy apple. Now, Fae food is very dangerous to humans, and it makes them more subservient. And so that's the only time where like she becomes like submissive, I guess. Um, it had to be through Fae food and not through like actual their glamour, because that doesn't work on her. So they force her out of her clothes. They ask her who she has a crush on. Carden, I think it's written in a way that it's like it's him doing this trying to almost help her out or something, but it just doesn't take that way. At least that's how I remember reading it. He tries to get Jude to kiss his feet and just to show how low she is. So he takes advantage of her while under the influence. And it's Locke who comes to her aid and takes her home, where the effects begin to wear off on Jude. And then she and Locke grow closer still and kiss. I still wouldn't trust this boy, but okay, whatever. Jude gets her first assignment from Prince Dane to sneak into his older brother's house to find any hits of treason, as Dane is about to be crowned ruler, and so he needs to know who is coming for his crown, even if it's his family. She does find such a letter of treason, and she also sees Carden being beaten by his oldest bro, and she also finds a piece of paper with her name angrily scribbled on it in Carden's handwriting, so she takes this to mean, oh, he really hates me. Oh, he really hates me. We see Jude trying to build her tolerance to Fae fruit and poison, and it really doesn't go well. She gets sick a lot, and then she gets an addiction to it. More fairness comes from Locke, and so they're chilling and they're hanging out, and she ends up overhearing him and Nakasa. I don't really know how to pronounce her name, but Nakasa, Carden's on-again, off-again girlfriend and princess of the seas. She's asking Locke if Carden will be angry that he and Jude are hanging out. So that's something to keep in mind, because why should he care? It's almost like he's playing you. Later, she finds another one of Carden's members, Valerian, in her room where he's trying to work his glamour on her, but it doesn't work, and she ends up stabbing him. We get more time with Locke, this time at a party where Carden watches them in jealousy, but he's also like kissing up on multiple women, and she's watching him in jealousy. It's almost like a cat and mouse thing. The coronation approaches, and Jude, Taran, and Vi have gotten new dresses. We see the stepmom warning Jude to be careful of getting involved with the princes, as she's thinking that Jude and Dane are a thing. And it hints that the stepmom may not be as non-tolerant as Jude and Taran first thought, because she does come off as non-tolerant of them at first, but there's something more there beneath the surface. Valerian again sneaks into Jude's room, resulting in her having to take him out this time. The coronation is here, and we find out that Taran and Locke are engaged, which is so weird because it just came out of nowhere. You've been messing with her, and then you step out with her sister. It's not weird because it's like I don't know how she didn't know that he was playing her, but it's also like her sister, there was no evidence hinting up to that. At least I don't remember. The crowning is also interrupted when Balak, who is the oldest brother that was thinking about treason, and Madoc try to usurp the crown, so they end up taking off all the princes and princesses, I think, save Carden, because at least one needs to be alive to crown the other or to witness the other, something like that. But she sneaks away with Carden to Dane's spies. He has other spies, and they have a hideout, so she sneaks away with Carden to that hideout and questions him. Back home, Jude goes after Taran. Why, I can't fully remember. I think it's like Taran knew that Locke was playing Jude, and Taran also felt like Jude didn't think about the consequences of how angering Carden might affect her, while Jude feels like Taran was never on her side to begin with. something along those lines, but I can't remember. Maddox and Vi break it up, and then Maddox speaks with Jude about finding Carden. He's like, hey, I know you took him away. Where did you take him? She doesn't really tell him any of that. Jude finds out why Maddox helped in the usurping. It's because her little bro, Oak, has a legitimate claim to the throne. So in go, Maddox wants to get Oak on the throne, but Jude doesn't trust how he will go about doing that, how he will raise him to be a ruler to do that. So Carden and Jude are back at Little Hideout. They talk and she asks why he hates her. Are you ready for it? You ready for why he hates her? Why he finds himself so disgusted with the thought of like thinking about her? Because Maddox actually loves her, though she's human, but his own Fae family can't stand him. He admires her and her strength and hates himself for wanting her. And then they kiss. That is just, I'm gonna keep it pushing. My comments and opinions to myself, but you guys know, y'all know Oh, she ends up trying to get Carden to be king as a power play for herself, just until, because she also wants her little brother on the throne. So just until he can serve. And she asks Vi to take Oak to the human world. And she basically tricks Carden into being king, and he finally agrees to be under her control for a year and a day. So he's king, but she's pulling the strings. She's ruler. And that's book 1, The Cruel Prince. Book 2, The Wicked King. 5 months into Carden's, but really Jude's reign, and Balak tries to get Carden to visit, but Jude has been like intercepting the messages, and Balak refuses to share what he wants to say to Carden to Jude. Jude then turns to a guard that has been watching over Malak, and she kind of questions him. Does he know that Belloc and the Queen of the Underseas, they've been planning to find a way to ruin Carden? And so she ends up making that guard her spy. So Taran and Jude try to make up, but it's still like you can still feel the tension. It's palpable. Jude is also still trying to build her poison tolerance, but like I said, that is like she gets an addiction to it. It's not going well. There's an assassination attempt on Carden, but it ends up being Nakasa. Out of jealousy, she says. Jude threatens to take out Nakasa unless she tells them what her mother is up to. And Nakasa tells her that she wants her and on the throne beside Carden. And she also tells Jude that someone close to her has already betrayed her. So this is on Jude's mind now. So Jude goes to a council meeting and tries to convince them of an upcoming attack, but they are not trying to hear it. We get a little bit more of Carden and Jude, and Nakasa is trying to figure out what Jude has on Carden, because there's no way he could just be willingly spending his time with her. Jude notices the changes in Carden, how the people are growing on him, and vice versa, how he's not so wicked in The Wicked King, despite him being so cruel in The Cruel Prince. And she hates the growing feelings that she has for him. She later gets to be the butt of the joke, this time from Locke, where they take a human girl, get her drunk, and then berate her, all the while she's tricked into thinking that it's fun, so it's like they drug her, and she's thinking it's a fun time, but it's really not. While Jude and Locke do dance, and she gets berated a little, she gets out of all the rest of being drunk and all of that, thinking that it's a good time. So the sea goddess messengers arrive and declare that she wants her daughter Nakasa and Carden to marry. Carden calls a council meeting, and while in the gathering, Maddox approaches Jude, trying to get her to align with him and to stop Carden and Nakasa from being married. At the meeting, Jude informs them that the sea goddess may be working with Balak, and Carden summons Nakasa and tells her to deliver a message to her mother. To threaten Carden again is to make Nakasa a prisoner. Also, she does try to get Carden to agree to the marriage, but he's not like really having it. And Jude throws a hissy fit because Carden ordered her to go get Nakasa and threatens him with public humiliation if he ever like does that again. I can't remember how he ordered her to go get Nakasa, but it's also like these council members don't like you because you're human and they really don't think you have a place in their politics. He can't just say, well, she's here because I want her to be here. Like, he has to justify you being there somehow, even if it's his errand girl. But Jude plots to send misinformed information to Balak as a way to protect Oak, who is coming back for Taran's wedding. She's surprised by Carden's mother, who was supposed to be dead, I think, but she ends up being like a prisoner down in there. So she's trying to barter for her freedom. And Jude wants information about her own mother because apparently they were close. Later, Carden calls on Jude to tell her that Balak has sent word to him and wants Cardan to get Jude under control. Jude tells Cardan about the false messages she's been sending to Belloc and tells Cardan to summon his brother to see what he wants. She also tells him to seduce Nakasa for information, so this leads to him practicing his seduction skills on Jude, and they kiss again, and she questions how, out of all the horrible things he's done to her and in general, why he makes her feel the way that he does. Later, Jude, trying to distract herself from her feelings about Cardan, does some spy work, and she ends up threatening Locke again. Hey, you hurt my sister, it's gonna be me and you. While in the mortal world to get Oak for Tarn's wedding, one of her spy buddies, Roach, tries to convince Jude to tell Cardan about his mother. Jude, in turn, asks the Roach about one of their associates, the Bomb, who he cares for, but he doesn't know if he can fully trust because she's immortal, so she can lie about her feelings, and that'll just lead to heartache. They end up meeting with Vi and her girlfriend Heather and take her back and Oak and take them back to Fairy. And Jude also gives Heather the rules, which Vi didn't, which is like, why would you not? I can't remember if she told Heather flat out what was going on, but you knew your worlds were going to collide. So you knew you should have told her, and then you knew you should have like given her the rules. Because I think this ends up leading her to being like drugged and the butt of the joke. Back at the castle, Cardan and Nakasa are together, just talking, I think, and it makes Jude jealous nonetheless. While getting a gift for the wedding, Grimson, who I think is like one of the blacksmiths, he makes a trade with Jude. He gets her tears, I think. In exchange, he tells her to tell Cardan that if they do go to war, he'd make Cardan an armor of ice, which would be as tough as swords. Cardan tells Jude of the sea goddess's plan to strike at the wedding, and he also tries to talk about their kiss, but Jude shuts that down. Jude and Maddox want the same thing for Oak, but have different ways of getting it from different angles, so it low-key makes them like adversaries. Balak finally gets an audience and demands to be regent of Cardan, but that's a no. Maddox also finds out about Jude's control over Cardan, officially making them enemies, and the sea goddess does attack, and we find out that Jude, one of Jude's associates, has betrayed her, and she's under the water in the sea goddess's palace for about a month, where they think they can glamour her into doing their bidding, but because of Princess Dane's protection, even though he's gone, the protection is still there. They can't glamour her, but she lets them think that they have been. Cardan trades a kingdom for Jude to get her back, and now said ruler of that kingdom is demanding that they go to war with the sea goddess, and they also make Balak their ambassador. She and Cardan talk, and he expresses his feelings, how it took her being kidnapped for him to realize that he actually cares about her. Jude tells Locke that she knows it was him and his friends who tried to harm her, because there's a subplot about that in there, and that she's seeking retaliation. And again, hey, it's gonna be me and you. Keep it up. We're at a masquerade ball, and Cardan wanders in poison. Balak tries to blame Jude, but she and Cardan play it off as if he's drunk. He's coming in there, he talks about how Jude is so pretty and tries to kiss her and all this, and it's so like, Cardan would never do that. He must be poisoned. So obviously something is wrong. She has to get the antidote from Balak, and she does before she ends up taking him out. Maddox and Tarn fool Cardan into giving them half the army, and they run off. Cardan asks Jude to be free of her influence because he thought Tarn was Jude, and so he couldn't say no to her, which is why they now have half the army. And so he's like, I have to have my free will back. You could just marry me instead as a way to rule. So they do marry, but no one's there when they marry. It's just them. And so after finding out his brother, Ambassador of the Sea, was murdered, Cardan is a little aggravated with Jude and has to stave our war with the sea goddess, instead making Nakasa the ambassador. And as an act of justice, he exiles Jude to the mortal world, to where she argues she is queen. No one believes her because no one was there. And in the mortal world, Vi's like, hey, you should totally scheme against Cardan, because how dare he do that to you. Book 2. Book 3, The Queen of Nothing. So having been exiled, Jude is now a mercenary for Fays just at the edge of the mortal world, Fey world, for income. She meets a fairy commander, Grimma Mog, and she bests her in battle, which earns the commander's respect. And it's here that Jude learns that Maddox is planning to attack Cardan. So Taryn visits Jude and tells her that she's pregnant and that she ended up taking out Locke and needs Jude to assume her identity while she hides. Jude agrees. So as Jude is acting as Taryn in the fairy world, Cardan says he wants to question her privately. He knows it's Jude. And of course, when they get to the privacy of his rooms, he's trying to tell her, hey, the exile thing, it's not like you think. It's a miscommunication trope as to why he exiled her. However, Jude is taken by Maddox, who thinks that she's still Taryn. And so they don't get to the miscommunication trope yet. And Maddox and Jude fight when he figures out it's Jude. Carden escapes the attack that Maddox had planned to rescue Taran, Jude, and he comes for Jude. And as for the exile, the miscommunication trope was that Jude could come back when the crown allowed it. Jude, having been married to Carden, is the crown, so she could have come back anytime she wanted. But she said she was the queen, and no one believed her when she said that. And he just stared at her. When she said it, Carden just stared at her. He didn't say, you know what? You're right. Get on up back to this throne. He just stared at her. So, like, I truly need somebody to explain to me the logic in the exile thing. It just didn't play out well. Carden has been sending letters to explain this to Jude, but his mother was intercepting them because she don't like Jude. But Carden does publicly announce that she is High Queen and his wife. Jude tells Carden of Maddox and his allies, and they end up visiting Jude and Carden. Here, Carden breaks his crown as a way to fulfill the prophecy that he'd be the one to end the old ways. But when he breaks the crown, it's cursed, and it turns Carden into this huge serpent. As I'm reading this, it might sound a little kooky, but I promise you, these are like the order of things. Like, I tried to take out the most important things that were still in chronological order, so this is the order of things. It might sound like he turned into a serpent, what? But I promise you, it somewhat made sense in the story. I'll grant it that. So Jude has to find a way to save the kingdom and Carden that doesn't involve taking him out. In the end, Jude does take out the serpent, which fulfills the prophecy that Carden's blood would lead to a great ruler. Because Carden lives, he emerges from the serpent's belly, and we get Jude and Carden confessing their feelings. And those that have crossed them, not counting Maddox, have to swear allegiance. Now, as for Maddox, he is exiled to the mortal world, and the stepmom and Oak just join him. But Carden and Jude do visit every now and then, and that about sums it up. We get to see them visiting in the little short story that is Carden's POV. I don't really want to get into that, though. My thoughts. I can't for the life of me understand why this book is so hyped up. I couldn't. Like, first time reading through, I don't know how I made it through other than I just was really hoping that this was enemies to lovers, and though seeing that it wasn't, I was still trying to get some of that payoff, and it just didn't work for me, but I was trying to see that it gets better. This second time around through, it was very much unbearable for me to get through. Well, why did you pick it to review it, Kaya? Because I need the algorithm to understand that I dislike this book, because it kept popping up on my Twitter feed, on my TikTok feed, and it's like, I don't engage in this stuff, and I'm tired of blocking. I need the algorithm to know. I don't like the Cruel Prince. I don't like the Cruel Prince series. Like I said, I read it before I got super hype on TikTok. For reading it through, I don't know how I read it through. It was completely unbearable. It has nothing to do with the world building or even the politics. If you praise the politics, fine, whatever. My beef comes from it being labeled as an enemies to lovers, because that's how it was sold to me. And it's not. It's a bully romance. Now, I have a video on my Kaya's Commentary TikTok, which kind of breaks down what a bully romance is. And a bully, BT dubs by definition, is someone who bullies and torments. Bullies and torments someone they feel is vulnerable or beneath them. And when you get into the summaries of the story, like I said, they use bully or torment a lot, not antagonize, because you can be an antagonist without being a bully. Rather, you can antagonize without going to the lengths that Carden went. All because he didn't like that he liked her. Then there's a power imbalance favoring one side, particularly or typically the male, and he hoards his power over the love interest, typically the woman. And when we find out why he bullies the girl that he's supposed to like, it's because he hates himself for liking her. That fits Jude and Carden to a T. He's a prince. She's a fae, she's a mortal surrounded by fae. Power imbalance. Now, if this were enemies to lovers, they'd be at odds because she's human and he's fae, and they've been raised to hate each other, and they're both actively coming for each other because they believe the other is a threat to the realm. Above all, they'd be on equal footing. There'd be no power imbalance. But like I said, he's a fae prince, and she is a mortal in the world of fae. It don't get no lower than that. He's tormented, and that's why he torments her. He has a line, like in the Wicked Prince, I think, and it might be along the line that I read earlier, which also, by the way, he wasn't nearly as wicked in the Wicked King. So like him being so cruel in the Cruel Prince but not as wicked in the Wicked King, it I'm gonna come back to that. But overall, he's not that wicked, and he has a line in there that's like, I wasn't kind, Jude, not to many people, not to you. I wasn't sure if I wanted you or if I wanted you gone from my sight so that I would stop feeling as I did, which made me even more unkind. But when you were gone, truly gone beneath the waves, I hated myself as I never have before. Like I said, his brother would beat and torment him, and he'd be reminded about how he's the black sheep in his Faye family, all the while Jude, who is an outsider in her Faye family, is loved by her Faye stepdad, and that he insists that they be treated equally. So that and her strength made him admire her all the more and made him hate himself for wanting her and admiring her. Now, I also have a video on the Kai's commentary TikTok about what an enemies to lovers, what a true enemies to lovers is. And I said that you can't put an enemies to lovers in a contemporary piece. It has to be a fantasy or supernatural setting. Otherwise, that's what a rival to love or a hate to love is for. But bully romances, you most certainly can put them in any setting. And if you take Jude and Cardan and put them in the real world, it's still a bully romance. It's not a rivals to love. It's not a hate to love. It's a bully romance. And it bothers me. It bothers me that people hype them up like they're so cute. They're not. They're not. I'm so sorry. They're not. Like, I know I've had this, like, I've been going on this rant about shipping lately, and I am gonna go on it here as well. You can ship who you want, but just acknowledge that it's a bully romance. They're not enemies to lovers. It's a bully romance. And the excuses that I've seen make it worse. Well, it's called The Cruel Prince. Okay? And like, I'm noticing that a lot of people don't understand that a morally great character should still be liked. What makes a morally great character? Their likability, their understandability, their humanity. And yes, Cardan is Faye, but he has such petty human emotions as intense jealousy. And it's fine to have intense jealousy, but what you do with that intense jealousy is a whole other thing. Pushing her in a lake full of piranha-like creatures. She's at her lowest drugged, and instead of you doing what Locke did, taking her out of that, you decided to stick your foot out and try to make her kiss your foot to satisfy your own pride that she is lower than you. Like, morally great characters should still be liked, should still have reasons for what they do beyond, I hate it that you're so strong and liked and I'm not. Like, that is so, pardon me, because, you know, we all have a little bit of toxic masculinity in us, and we should all work on that. I'm not working on mine, though, because I feel like mine is justified. That is so behavior. Like, I'm so sorry. Like I said, this is one of the times y'all will see me just get real toxic. But you mad at me because my stepdad actually cares for me while your real family kind of dislike you. Sweetheart, babes, beloved, bestie, we can squash all of this. Just come over and I can do your hair and your makeup, and we can get mani-pedis, and I can loan you my best dress and my best heels. Like, that is so female dog behavior. Like, grow up. Grow up. Like, I will never get with a love story where he's jealous of her for such petty reasons. For such petty reasons. And honestly, like I said, it's fine to be jealous, but then to handle your jealousy in the way that he did, I will never get with that. Grow up. I would belittle you so much. You definitely would hate me. You definitely would hate me. But like, just because you put all these trigger warnings or because you make it known that your character is cartoonishly villainous, doesn't mean that they're redeemable. Now, there's nothing wrong with the villain getting a girl, but when you make your villain Joker level psychotic and then say, well, it's just a dark romance, they're a morally great character. No, they're not. Morally great characters should still be liked, or at the very least should still have a reason for what they do. I think about one of my favorite dark romances, enemies to lovers, borderline Stockholm Syndrome books. What is it? Blood Shadows by Lindsay Dre Pryor. The characters of Cain and Caitlin. You understand why Cain is doing the things that he does to Caitlin, and his thoughts about Caitlin and how that changes. You understand that. He has done morally great things. He's taken out people for reasons, but it's like he thought he had to do what he had to do. Like, even with Osha and Chimere, we don't know much about Chimere yet, but I honestly find it so funny that like people see him a genuine morally great character and apply all these morals. He took out her squad, he took out Jackie, he took out Yord, he's a villain, he doesn't get the girl. But then you have stories like these, and then other horrific essay horror stories branded as dark romance, and it's just let people read what they want to read. He's so hot though. She like stuff that stories that if this was placed in the real world, he'd be like a deranged psychotic sociopath. Um, but then you have morally gray characters who are complex and deserve a little bit of grace, and they don't get it. Like, y'all don't know what a real morally gray character is. Y'all don't know what a real morally gray character is. They should still have reasons for what they do. Like I said, there is nothing wrong with the villain getting the girl, but like making your morally gray character an unlikable villain who revels in the misery of others just because, making kids orphans just because, just for funsies, they're Joker level psychotic. Nothing wrong with the Joker getting the girl, but at least sell it that way. Sell it that way. Y'all need to learn y'all tropes. Y'all need to learn y'all writing styles. Like, I'm a very literal person with that. Y'all need to learn those things. They're not a morally gray character. They're just dark. They're a villain. And you should sell it that way. Like the mislabeling of stories and then selling solely based on tropes is driving me nuts. But I said all of that to say, because I have to keep it pushing. I said all of that to say, just because it's labeled The Cruel Prince doesn't mean he had to be cartoonishly cruel. Like, he pushed her in a lake full of piranha like creatures, saved her sister after making her kiss his cheek and forsake Jude, watched as his friends who actually hated her bullied her, tried to make her kiss his feet while under the influence, and watched as one of his friends helped her out, though that was a play too. Mind you, all of this not because they're sworn enemies, but because he hates the fact that she is loved and that she is strong and he is not. Also, like I said, he's not really wicked in the Wicked King, so that just further goes to show he didn't have to be this cartoonishly level of villain, of cruelness. He just didn't. Also, I've seen less about the romance and more about the politics. Well, that just defeats the purpose of an enemies to lovers, now doesn't it? Now, if you read for the politics, fine, but to know that it is hyped up as enemies to lovers and then use that excuse to say, well, no, instead it was about enemies to lovers. Look, shut up. Shut up. Stay yo, it's about the politics so behind in the it's the politics section, because obviously no one's talking to you. But you know that this is hyped up as enemies to lovers solely, and that's not what it is. And Jude and Carden are just so insufferable to me. Now I've hit on Carden, so now it's Jude's turn. Um, Firstly, and this is more about the writing than like Jude itself, I hate when books break fourth wall, and I like it in live media where you can watch it, it's entertaining, but in books, in first person books, and I love first person books, but to sit here and be like, yes, Carden, he's so horrible, but I find him so attractive because I have daddy issues. Oh, yeah, one more thing. There are things you should know about me. One, I got my tip of my pinky bit off by someone because of some reason. Two, like, why are you talking to me? Why are you talking to me? You already in first person. So therefore you get to say, dang, Carden is so hot. And it just he's so hot but so mean but so hot. It makes my pinky throb, even though that could also be because like my stuff got bit off by somebody because like the Fae are cruel. Like, you don't have to sit here and turn and break fourth wall and then start listing things. You're already in first person, so you have the ability to do that. That's less about Jude and more about the writing. But still. So a lot of people kind of hate Taran uh over Jude, but I'm sorry, Taran had a right to be upset at Jude. Now, of course, Jude shouldn't have had to take all that she took from Carden, and not fighting back wouldn't have done anything, especially considering it was her strength and resilience that he hated. But purposefully angering them, knowing you got a whole twin sis that it will blow back on, yeah, you suck on that end. Throwing a temper tantrum when Carden told her to go get Nakasa, like I said, I don't remember how he said it, but in front of people who don't know you pulling the strings, yeah, he gotta justify you being there somehow, even if it's just his little errand girl. And then their love in general isn't believable to me. Like I said, I read it the first time through to see if it would get better, and when I finally got to their scene, I nearly threw my phone. Now, I didn't mention this, but Carden has a tail, and I have a bit of a prejudice against fae books. This is why I don't like fae books. I get just a little too animalistic for me. Now, I can read a werewolf, a dragon, a bear, a tiger shifter books, but when y'all start adding your animalistic qualities in human form, like I was reading, was it Karen Morning? Fae books. I don't know. I can't remember. But characters were getting down and dirty, and then he has the ability to shift into a beast, so he starts shifting midway to make himself bigger. And I'm like, yo, y'all get just a little too animalistic for me. So he has a tail, and when they just getting down and dirty, like his tail starts sliding up her leg, and that little detail was all fine. And that little detail just ruined the whole thing for me, like just the whole thing. Overall, maybe a 5 out of 10. That's gracious. That's for the politics and the world building, which are mostly decent. Everything else is a no. Everything else is like 4 out of 10. Carden and Jude are not this great enemies to lovers. It's a bully romance. Even if she later gets power, it started out as a bully romance, and I just really wonder if it's adolescence that hyped this stuff up. Because seriously, even as a 23-year-old, I'm 2 years off from my mind being fully developed. There's no way I'm reading a bully romance and thinking this is like attractive. Like even in like fantasy fiction, like I'm an enemies to lovers girly, so obviously like levels of fantasy are tweaked, but bully romances, it has to be adolescence. You can't, as an adult, see like I'm sorry, you can't. And miss me with that. It's just fantasy because at what point is it no longer an excuse? And like I said, Carden did get to a point where he just wasn't redeemable as a love interest. Like it's just 5 out of 10. And like I said, the whole Exile thing was stupid. I just don't stupid. But that is what you're reading. With that, let's quickly get into our third and final segment, Online Discourse, where I give my commentary on an online discourse that I've seen popping off. Today we're talking about shipping bias and not shipping as in, oh, you have your favorite ship and I have my favorite ship and my favorite ship towers your favorite ship. No, I mean the notion that shipping is useless um and media. And it's not. Now, with the Bear season 3 popping off, and the mere idea that two fictional characters, Sid and Carmi, might be getting together. You got people doing whole think pieces. I don't see how y'all want Sid and Carmi together. He's not stable right now. He's not stable right now. But the reason people are calling their ship a slow burn is because it allows for people to go through personal growth before they get into relationships. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? I just can't see how y'all see romance in this show. Probably the same way that y'all see comedy in this show. Like, I'm so sorry. More, we should have its own category of dramedy because it's not a flat out comedy. Um, and then just writing whole like articles about how it's a sickness and it's a disease. Y'all, shipping is not new. I have a whole video, The World of Shipping, and I might retweak it, but also everything I said in it still stands. But this also might go into its own little rant. But shipping is not new. I want to say it's been around since the 70s. Um, but I know like definitely the 90s. Like the X-Files shipped since the 90s. Law and Order, Bensler shipped since the 90s. Even in anime, Vegeta and Bulma. Maybe that's where my enemies to lovers stuff started popping up. I don't know. Shipped since the 90s, maybe even the 80s. Like shipping is not new, and shipping helps to sell shows. Like in 2024, there's no way you could tell me that I'd be attached to a Star Wars project. I saw the original Star Wars because we were studying the music of it, but it's not something that like really pulled me in. I was rooting for Layla and Han, so even that's a ship, but it's not something that really like, oh, I have to follow this. So you couldn't tell me that I'd be attached to a Star Wars project. And then I saw these ships of Chimera and Osha and the Acolyte, and it's like, let me sit down. So now they have an extra viewer because somebody there put they enemies to lovers ships on my For You page. Rick Stone, The Walking Dead sat on my Netflix list for years and I just could not get myself to like really sit down and watch it. Then The Ones Who Live popped up and I was like, oh, this is a love story. Let me lock in. Sleepy Hollow, like the writers know that shipping is a thing, the writers and the showrunners, because when they need to sell a show, they will. Sleepy Hollow is a very good example of this because they sucked after season 1 and they know they did. So when they really needed to lock in on viewership, they would play up the it could be angles and hashtag it could be. And then when they got that viewership, they were like, actually, no, Abby doesn't want a love interest. Why would she not want a love interest? Why would she just want to be focused on um her work? Why would she want her love interest to say that it's the Abby Mills show and can't nobody else have room? Like, why would she want to not have romantic love? Romance, for the love of God, I will keep saying. Romance does not ruin a piece of media the way that y'all think it does. I know that shows, we used to have 20 episode shows, 10 seasons of it back to back, and now we have 3 seasons max of 6 episodes, so it is a little harder to show the romance and these storylines, and it feels forced and stuff. But like, it's human to feel romance, so these storylines would naturally progress into it. Cartman's storyline is that he doesn't feel like he can give and receive romantic love, so of course when he is healed, he's going to be like, dang, I can give romantic love, I can be romantically loved, and might decide that Sydney is that for him, or Claire, or whoever. Same with Sydney. I would say she's in the same place as far as romantic love, just not on the same level as Carmi. And it's like, yeah, I can give romantic love. I can be romantically loved. Like, they grow into these storylines. Like, romance is there because it's a human thing to do. Characters deserve the ability to give and receive romantic love. Romance does not ruin a show the way that y'all thinking it does. Like, you don't have to like the ship, you don't have to agree with the ship, you don't have to engage in the ship. Merthyr. I don't like the ship of Merthyr because I feel like it's a servant master relationship, and majority, of course, not all, majority only ship Merthyr because Gwen is black. And they're just misogynoir buttholes. But not all of them, because I have a stitch on my personal TikTok where I'm responding to a Merthyr, or at least they had a Merthyr hashtag on their video. And they didn't give the misogynoir vibe answers, reasonings that one would typically give as to why they dislike Gwen and why they ship Merthyr. Like, but I don't overall like the ship of Merthyr, so I will block it. I will not engage with it. I'm not going to go into their We Love Merthyr space and say you guys have a sickness and a disease. I'm just gonna go about my business. You do have that ability. Like, you can have your favorite ship, you can have no ships, but shipping is not new and it does not ruin a piece of media. The fact that the ship is on y'all minds more than it is on ours, that it's taken up the idea of fictional characters, because I would understand if these were real life people that were being shipped and y'all would be like, okay, y'all have a sickness, these are real people, but fictional characters. Storylines grow into romance, guys. Kaya in edit mode, but something that I feel is important to add that I forgot to add is that shippers don't have real deal big influences like people claim that they do. Like, yeah, fans in general, hey, we see you're clicking with this side character, so now they're a main character. Woo! Hey, we see you're not clicking with this side character, so they're gonna mysteriously disappear. Woo! But to act like they have main, like, real deal influence, like, give us Ickaby right now or we're gonna tank your show. No one said that. No one said that. But to alienate your core fan base, to make it known that you vehemently oppose the idea of two fictional characters getting together romantically, or romance in general, is another thing entirely. To post up with writing for dummy books and photos and it's the Abby Mills show, it's another thing entirely. And I think people have such a stark response to it because you'll notice that a lot of these people run in the same circles, and one of those circles is Sleepy Hollow. And to see that stuff in Sleepy Hollow real time, you kind of recognize the signs. And I'll even grant you, I don't agree with asking actors every 2 seconds, hey, how do you feel about your characters getting together? Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? But asking your actors, hey, this is a story about like bonds and relationships. What are the possibilities of romance blooming anywhere? And as far as like a relationship or a bond, it's not an out there question. Like, shipping's not harmful. Like, it helps. It's not that out there question. Anyway, if the bear is not about romance, we shouldn't see them outside of the kitchen. We shouldn't see anything about Shug. We shouldn't see anything about Tina and her husband. We should see how they got to the beef, to the bear, and how they end up working there. But ultimately, everything should stay in the kitchen. But it's more than that. Like, romance does not ruin a show the way y'all think it does. Characters deserve to give and receive romantic love. Shipping is not new, and it does not ruin a piece of media. Y'all's anti-romance, y'all need to get over that, because y'all swear y'all wrote this epic romance, but then also make it known that y'all hate romance. Grow up. Grow up. With that, that's online discourse. I gotta make it short. I might come back or add another TikTok video because I already have one out, or make a whole video about it, updated the world of shipping. But that's Online Discourse, and that's Kaya's commentary. If you like this episode or like this episode, hit the thumbs up button, leave comments down below, let me know any of your thoughts and opinions on any of the segments that I had. Be respectful. We can have a conversation with one another, but only if we are respectful. Be sure to follow on all my social media. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next time.